I, 31 female, and my partner, 42 male, have lived together for about a year and have been dating for several years. We each have a child from a previous marriage, and I'm pregnant with our child. We each share custody of our kids with our ex-spouses and share duties with them. His ex-wife decided upon hearing of my existence that I had a bad influence on her son, 12, and spent the larger part of 3 months calling my partner crying about how he abandoned her. They split 10 years ago, and she is remarried with 3 young children. She proceeded to say terrible things about me without having met me, and telling him not to be with me. She has never apologized or even tried to talk to me, despite my being present and available. But he says this was 3 months ago, so I should forgive her and get over it, because she is fine now, and she hasn't yelled at him recently. They have co-parented pretty well despite her taking advantage of him and trying to baby him for as long as I've known him. She was living about 30 miles away from us, so my partner and I took turns driving their son to and from school. She helped out a lot on the weeks when we had custody because she was very close to the school, and we worked and lived further away. Now the ex has moved closer to us, and we all live within about 10 minutes of each other, which is great. But the ex has decided that this is the perfect opportunity to be around as much as possible. She finds any excuse to drop off, pick up things from our house, pack her son lunch on our custody days and drop it off. She shows up to his school and sees her son before and after school each day, and at every extracurricular activity. She calls my ex literally every day, sometimes multiple times per day, and texts sometimes all day. She also texts her son all day, and calls him several times per day when he is with us. She asks her son if she can come over and drop off things for him, and he says yes, so she just comes by and parks in front of the house. Whenever I bring up my concern about feeling like our space is invaded, and that she doesn't respect our space, he gets upset with me for not thinking positively and giving everyone a second chance. I have explained to my partner that I am the mom in this house, and that we can care for the children without her on our custodial days, and he agrees that she is overbearing, but refuses to set hard boundaries, claiming that it is just an old habit for them to talk all the time. I also recently found out he is deleting text messages and call records between them, and that he has lied about how often he sees her. Turns out, it is almost every day. When he needs help with the kids on our custody days, he is calling her instead of me, even if I'm closer, and then goes to her house. Edit. I gave him 1 week to set some boundaries with his ex and show me that he is on my team and part of this family. He is also going to figure out how to contribute financially toward our lives, because I've been paying for everything, except his car payment and gas, while he reaps the benefits of having 2 women to take care of his kids and no bills. So, am I the a-hole for wanting some boundaries in my own home between my partner and his ex-wife? He is deleting messages from her. They're getting back together. Get your ducks in a row for your custody battle, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but OP, you do not have an ex problem. You have a husband problem. Your husband is actively undermining you in your relationship with both him and his child. What you have now in terms of a life with him is how it will be forever. He refuses to see what he is doing is wrong, tells you that you are in the wrong, and actively hides his activities on a daily basis. He is cheating on you. Even if it's not physical in terms of sex, it is physical in terms of he is actually physically in her presence every day. Do not let this be your life, as it will destroy your self-confidence and you emotionally. If he will not do couples counseling, go to counseling therapy yourself to work on yourself and leave him. He has already made his choice. Not the a-hole, your partner is. I'd be suspicious that there was more going on between them. What you are asking for is reasonable boundaries, and he's brushing you off and trying to make it out to be not an issue, despite the fact that it is. I'd honestly be pushing harder, especially with the way he's more or less disregarded your role in the family, and is deferring to his ex for these things now. It's one thing for him to defer to his ex from time to time to ask for help with the kids, particularly if you aren't immediately available. It's another to be seeing her every day, calling and texting her every day, and sneakily deleting things, having her constantly be all up in your space. I'd be suspicious as hell if my partner was doing that with their ex. Ha. I'm a single mom of 4, who are 27 male, 21 male, 18 male, and 16 female. Their dad passed away when the youngest was 1, and raising them all alone has been very difficult. The 3 youngest still live with me as they are all either in high school or college. When my oldest was 18, he had a child with his girlfriend. His girlfriend wanted to give her up for adoption, but my son convinced her not to do it, and let him raise the child instead. I told him I have enough kids already. I'm not raising another one because really, who's going to end up taking care of the child when he is going to college? I told him to either let his girlfriend give up the baby or move out of my home because I'm not going to help him at all. I have enough kids already. He chose to keep the baby and move out. I didn't hear from him for years after that, but he kept in touch with the rest of the children, and they told me he's very upset. A few days ago, my youngest son came and wanted to talk to me. He said that my oldest is going through a hard time and needs a place to stay, and asked if he could invite him to stay with us for some time. I decided to let him stay with us as he seemed to be out of options. They moved in with us 2 days ago, and my son and I have been talking and trying to fix things. However, I'm very bothered by his daughter's behavior. Yesterday she was sitting in the living room and playing with her phone. I tried to start a conversation with her by asking how old she is. I already know how old she is, obviously. I was just trying to talk to her. She didn't answer. I asked again, no answer. After the third time, my daughter took out the kid's AirPods and told her I'm talking to her. I repeated my question, and she rolled her eyes and said I could have asked someone else because everyone here knows her age. I told her I was trying to talk to her, and she said, I know, she was trying not to. I told her this is no way to talk to your grandmother, and she rolled her eyes again. This is when I decided I've had enough. I told her to go to her room and not to get out until she apologizes. She decided not to apologize and missed dinner. When my son came home, he went to his room and then angrily came back and asked us why his daughter was not given anything to eat. I told him the story, but he kept yelling at me saying I had no right to punish his child like that. He kept calling me an a-hole and other names. I tried to calm him down, but he wouldn't stop yelling and said they'll move out in the morning. I think he was overreacting, but all my children are on his side, so I wonder if I was the a-hole in this situation. You're the a-hole. This kid does not know you. She's in an uncomfortable situation, surrounded by basically strangers, and rather than meeting her where she is, you've decided that you should punish her for that. Also, withholding food should never be a punishment, and your son rightfully was upset by this. You don't have the right to punish a child that isn't yours without the consent and understanding from the parent. And I suspect you've just put another nail in the coffin for your relationship with your son. You decided not to be a part of the child's life and have opted back in. The child does not know you, and now is in a difficult position, living with someone who did not want her. She knows you were an absent grandma. This is the issue with drawing lines and then reconsidering. The child needs time to accept you. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. The kid doesn't know you. You're burning bridges before you can even build them. You played no part in her life but feel the need to punish or discipline her for rolling her eyes at you. You can do better, both as a so-called grandmother and adult. You're not involved in her life, and you certainly could have handled it better. You should not have withheld food from her. That's awful. Ha. So me, 41 male, and my ex, 42 female, have been divorced for 10 years now. We had 2 kids together, now 12 female and 16 male, and we are both remarried. I have 2 more kids, 6 female and 7 female, with my current wife, 36 female. When my ex married her now husband, she decided to leave the country and settle down in Spain due to job opportunities for both her and her husband. About 6 years ago now. Due to this, I got primary custody of our kids, and while she has flown back a few times over the years to see them, she is fairly absent in their lives and hasn't seen them in person since late 2018. Edit. She has video called them in this time, but hasn't physically come to see them since then. Last year, both my late grandparents died. Me and my older sister got inheritance since our grandparents' only child, our dad, had already passed. It was a substantial amount, and we are very grateful for it, because until that point, me and my wife had been struggling with 4 kids and work issues. Since then, we sold our house, was not big enough, tiny rooms and the kids shared rooms, and bought a larger one. I paid off my debt, my wife bought a car. I was the only one that had a car before this. On top of that, we've put money away for all our kids' education and stuff, put some aside for Christmas, and had enough left over for a family vacation for the end of the school year. Again, for us, it was life-changing. We had decided since none of our kids had been out of country, we wanted to include them in the vacation planning, like picking a destination and such. Well, after some deliberation, we decided on Italy. We would be moving around Italy to different locations, but it had a bit of everything. Well, my eldest daughter's birthday came around, and she got a call from her mom. Well, during this convo, she mentioned that we were going as a family to Italy next year. At the end of the phone call, she asked my daughter to give me the phone. She was really angry and upset that I wasn't bringing the kids to Spain so she could see them. She was also upset that she didn't get any say in where the kids would be spending a large chunk of their time. She also didn't like that we would be taking the kids to a ski slope, since she thinks now sports are really dangerous. But that is a must-have for us since my son snowboards and my middle daughter wants to learn to ski. I told her that this was my money, and she wasn't contributing, so she didn't get a say. She started crying and saying I was punishing her for not being able to treat the kids like me and my wife could. She then was mad again that I didn't suggest or push for Spain. I feel like maybe I'm the a-hole for not even suggesting Spain. But my kids know that their mom lives there, and they never brought it up on the list of places they wanted to go. So, I'm not sure. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She hasn't cared enough to come see the kids herself since 2018. Your kids picked Italy, not Spain, so I don't think they are caring much about seeing her either. Why is she griping? She could at least request to come to Italy since it's not as bad as coming overseas and getting to see them for a little while. Tell her that if she wants to see the kids, it's on her to make the effort because she is the one who moved away. She can pay to fly them to see her if it's that freaking critical to her. Not the a-hole. Those kids know which parent left them and which one stayed. They also know that this is a family vacation, not a go-visit mom trip. If she wants to see them so bad, she can travel to Italy to meet up with you guys. Why do you have to put in all the effort for her sake? Not the a-hole. She moved to Spain. You asked the kids where they wanted to go. Not your problem they didn't pick Spain. My wife recently asked me for permission to take a few $1,000s, about 80%, from our joint account, to pay for agency fee to hire a new maid to take care of her bedridden father. I agreed, as she mentioned that she has a bonus coming in which could partially replenish the amount. However, she informed me afterward that the bonus is not guaranteed. This is stressing me out, as I've already planned out how the joint account savings will be spent to pay for our debts and bills for the rest of the year. This is not the first time she's used money from our account, and she usually replenishes back the money, but this is the largest amount she ever took. Before anyone jumps to condemn me for my apparent heartlessness, please know that despite our combined income being on higher middle side, with my wife earning double what I earned, she contributed only a few $100s more than me to the joint account. The rest of her income goes to support her parents' family. Thus, our joint account savings just barely covers our monthly expenses, and any surplus available are only a few $100s at best. This surplus are usually reserved for property tax, car insurance, and other miscellaneous annual lump sum payments. I'm paying most of the time for the petrol of our sedan car, and for food and entertainment when we bring our children out. I also sometimes packed food for my in-laws at my own expense when visiting them. I avoided claiming money from joint account for common item spending such as groceries and even road tax. Anytime I get a bonus, I will try to pump in extra money to the joint account. I tried to be frugal on my own personal spending with most of my account lunch at around $5 to $6, despite working near CBD. It took a lot of effort and planning for me to save up the few $1,000s. My wife has two elder brothers, one who is single and jobless, and now just hangs around the house to help take care of the father. He spends hundreds of dollars on lottery each month, despite having no income. The older brother, who is married, just became the boss of a small business, wears branded clothing and footwear, paid for his daughter to go to concerts, and his son to take up fitness, drives a large 8-seater car, yet other than monthly allowance to his parents, does not seem to contribute to any other extra spending such as the maid agency fee. This is causing me to develop a sense of resentment of them. All of the above, plus the uncertainty of whether the money will be replenished in time to pay the bills, is stressing me out. I'm having problems falling asleep at night. Talking to my wife is not an option, as she is rather protective of her parents and family, and she gets upset and stresses when I try to talk to her about our finances. Refusing her request will stress her, as she needs to come up with the money herself. I'm feeling a sense of hopelessness, and not sure how I can continue like this. So, am I the a-hole for being upset? Not the a-hole. Money is an obvious source of stress, and it sounds like your wife doesn't have good boundaries with her family. Of course you're upset. Not the a-hole. Your wife needs to ask her brothers to help out more. If her single and jobless brother stops spending money on the lottery every month, and her married brother cuts down on branded clothing and footwear, then your wife and her brothers can support their parents with the maid agency fee. It shouldn't be just yours and your wife's responsibility to help your father-in-law. Not the a-hole. I don't have a solution, except to maybe suggest talking to a financial planner. I don't really think you can do anything about this situation, as you already agreed to give them the money. Perhaps going forward the answer should be to say no and explain why. I've been in your wife's shoes where you feel you need to give your parents money, or are giving them money. Neither of my parents planned for their retirement, and have next to nothing. For what it's worth, I think a lot of people are just scraping by. Sounds like you are doing your best to be financially responsible. Cut yourself some slack if the bill doesn't get paid by when it's due.